Right, everybody, I just need to call the meeting to order. So just need somebody to move in second. So move by. Alan. And second by. Josh. Let the meeting be open at 6:00 p.m. All in favor? And then the adoption of the agenda, so move by.
Yes.
Josh. And second by. Perfect. That the agenda for the Emergency Services Committee meeting for December 16th, 2024 be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interests? And none. The adoption of the previous minutes, also moved by. And second by.
Yes.
Josh. That the minutes of the Emergency Services Committee meeting held November 18th, 2024 be adopted as circulated. All in favor? Any presentations or delegations? None. Any staff reports? So 6.6A. Report from acting fire chief regarding recent calls, reports, training, and community involvement.
That's where we're at right now.
That's you.
All right. So in the last little bit, the kind of a little bit of a workaround. I've got a little bit of the report that went up to council last week because there was kind of an overlap of two reports. So I moved the date to December 12th, which was last week. We currently still remain with 18 operational volunteers. We haven't responded to any additional calls except for those two late November. We're still at a call volume of 58 calls for service this year. Regular training, we've done EMS medical call procedures, equipment refresher. We've done PPE and bunker gear refreshers with some of our new guys. We've gone over everything again. Got them into stuff and familiar. The usual PPE checks, SCBAs are a weekly thing, make sure we're operational. Personal bunker gear again, all the guys checking all of their own stuff to make sure they have everything and they're fire ready. Ongoing, make sure the hull's clean, trucks are washed. Special training on December 7th. We had myself, interim chief, and our fire prevention officer participate in the Resilient Minds online training course. That went really well. Very educational. As it comes up again, I'd like to get more of our officers on that course and some of our senior staff. It is a free course, minus your day that it takes to do it, but it's very informational and I'd like to make more guys available to it so that we can offer to our guys. Fire chief updates. So station 2. The repairs were scheduled last week. They were completed on Thursday of last week. The policies and procedures, again, we are looking at them kind of a little bit of a setback, but we are looking at the policies and procedures to update everything and bring them where they need to be for 2025. New equipment checklists and tracking sheets, they have been created. I reviewed them and I did upload them to Teams. I don't know if anybody's seen them. I don't know if I did it properly, but the first draft has been uploaded to Teams. Also, with the transfer of the fire queue, the maintenance logs for each piece of equipment and all of our gear, I've started to document that and we've started building that database. Personal profiles to fire queue. We've created a profile for each of our guys and we're starting to populate that information in there as well. It keeps track of everything from their gear to their years of service, all in exportable files. We received another 6 sets of bunker gear last week and we put it into service right away. Had everybody try it on. Everything's good. That brings us to a total of 12, I believe, for this year, if I'm correct. Thank you.
It could be
6 previous and then 6 now. That brings us up to 12 brand new sets for this year. And 5 previously. We've got 17 sets of gear, which are well within the service life.
Where did these ones come from?
These ones were from TransCanada. They were off the shelf generic sizing.
So these were the new ones that we purchased.
Yes. I think they repaged. Right. Moving on, so last year's Northeast Fire and Education Conference, one of the big things was a need for cancer prevention. So within this, we've started at Station 1 and Station 2. We moved our gear lockers off of the floor where they're exposed to all the diesel and gas particulate. We've moved them into the hallway at Station 1, and we've moved them into the main office, or the office that's there in Station 2 to get them off the floor. As well as we've got in extra sets of gloves and balaclavas for the firefighters, so when they come back from certain calls, all that stuff that's exposed to their skin, they can take away and clean and not have to worry about not having it. Fire prevention. So ongoing again at each of our incidents, whether it's a medical call, whether it's a CO call, whether it's a false alarm, we're always in talking to everybody and ensuring that their smoke alarms and COs are working up to date. We're looking around and making sure they have them. You guys have all met our new fire prevention officer, Matt Strood. He is in the process of building a 2025 calendar of events. He has big plans for our fire education program for 2025. And Matt and I had talked about how we plan on completing fire and CO alarms inspections for the whole municipality. So we have had discussions on 2-year plan. So 24 to 25, focusing on this end of the township, kind of Bonfield end, and then starting in fall of 25 to spring, summer of 26, focusing on the Rutland Glen end of the township. So kind of splitting it in half, and on a 2-year basis, rotational basis, we'll have the whole township continually checked and going door to door. Community involvement, it's been slow lately. We haven't had any outreach or events that we've had planned, so it's just been nothing at this point.
Great. It's just on 7, items for community discussion. So 7A, receive and review update to the department plan provided by the acting fire chief.
I missed that one completely. I'm sorry. I didn't recall on that. There's been lots going on, and that's my fault. I will have that updated for our next meeting.
Okay. 7B, receive update on the annual emergency management compliance report provided by the CEMC.
Okay, every year we're required to fulfill a compliance report that basically outlines the status of our emergency response plan. There's all the elements in terms of, people that are involved in the plan, all their contact information, the fact that our plan is approved by council, what hazards we're evaluating against, who our emergency information officer is, who are members of the EOC, ECG, and CEMPC, which is the control group, the group that evaluates the plan every year and provides recommendations for its improvement. So this is a status report on steroids that every municipality has to do to demonstrate that they're in compliance with the Municipal Emergency Protections Act. And I guess one thing I'll make about it, since the last couple of years, it's become very more complex than it ever has been. It requires us to upload files and demonstrate all the things. We can't just say yes anymore and check it off, say, yeah, we're compliant, we're compliant, we're compliant. There needs to be a demonstration that we're compliant. But there have been improvements. We had a training session on how to do the compliance report from our support at Sector. So I think it's in keeping with the improvements that they're making in the province in terms of emergency management and funding that's being forwarded to it. And so it's about being practiced and being ready to take on an emergency if it is. And that's not just good enough to say I'm ready. You need to demonstrate that you're ready. So it's due diligence, and to that end, I guess this sort of piggybacks on this a little bit, but the Premier launched an organization called Ontario Corps, and Ontario Corps is a group of volunteers that's being funded by the province. They're being funded and equipped, being trained to respond to emergencies in terms of we don't always have the resources. They're setting up depots where they'll have chainsaws, equipment, beds, trucks, backhoes. So they're really arming ourselves to be able to defend against an emergency. The hub closest to us will be at Northern College in Timmins. So they're going to have a storage of equipment and supplies. The recruitment of volunteers is the next sort of thing that we need to take a look at. And so it won't just be, I'm going to be a member of the Ontario Corps. There's going to be training, and there's going to be documentation, and there's going to be some requirements for performance and standards for performance. So it's being safe, prepared, and practiced starts with having the resources and people and equipment. And when we're into eyeballs deep in a problem here, and we don't have loaders and equipment and sandbags or shovels or people. This is a phone call away, and they are committing to mobilize within 24 hours, and we can call them 24/7. So once this thing is up and running, so it's a huge tool in our toolbox that help is just a phone call away when we get into something that exceeds our capability and our ability. So great news. The funding that's coming for emergency management in the province has been very productive in terms and welcomed in terms of getting all the supplies and people we need. So bit of good news from the province of Ontario from Premier Doug.
So the emergency management compliance report has just been finished, right?
Yes,
And that's not your first time going down that road. You've done it a few years ago.
I've done it since 2022. Yes.
And have you worked with Josh on this at all?
No,
Okay.
this not yet.
And this is new then to you as well?
Yes,
You
it
haven't
is.
seen it yet? Yeah.
But I think that's a tremendous idea to collaborate on this and to sort of share information about what reports we collectively do and what information we can add to each other. That's a great idea.
And then 7C, receive and review the fire department 2025 preliminary budget provided by the CAO and the American Fire Chiefs.
So we don't have a copy of the budget. At the last meeting, we did provide copies for the budget on just the 2024 to date actuals. And then the chief and I just went through a number of different accounts for 2025. So we know in 2025, we talked at the last meeting that, I think it was the last meeting that we put the 50,000 that we had put into reserve, we paid off a loan. So that kind of frees up some of our operating costs, but does mean that we still have to put that 50,000 into the reserve for the SCBA's, and we have 3 years to replace them. So 3 years of 50,000. That starts again. A lot of the accounts will remain the same. There's per diems for training, and that's whenever a firefighter is attending a day course for a full 8-hour course, there's $200 per diem, and we're leaving that at 7,500 because some of the training, and Josh can speak to some more of the training in greater detail when we get down. I'll just go through some of the numbers. But we're looking at doing birthday training for medical calls, and then basic first aid training for anyone on the department who just isn't responding to the medical calls necessarily, but everybody does need first aid training. And then that also comes into some of the training, at the bottom accounts that we have to increase. For 3 people to go to the conference, the training cost for the, first aid is expensive. Not expensive, it's worth it, but it does add up when there's 10 people that are going to it. So we have to increase some of those costs. We did just have a new IT service provider. We switched that over in the municipality, so there'll be some additional costs for computers as well. And then, of course, for the computer support, because that would be on a monthly basis. And we are looking at going to the cloud on the computer, so the computers have to be up to Windows 7 and have Windows 7, that's pretty old. Windows 11. So there'll be new computers there. So we went through what that's gonna look like. So there'll be those added costs. So between the computers, the training, and then we had started to get into some of the supplies and stuff. I think we're fine on those budgets. Josh will jump in if I'm off on those. And then we didn't get into the building and vehicle maintenance yet, so I guess I can hand that over to Josh. And see if there's anything that jumps out that we need to be aware of before we.
Going down that, into building maintenance and vehicles? Is that what you're-
Is there anything particular we need to worry about for our buildings?
We should be looking at the heating system in Station 1.
Okay.
Currently, the domestic water is hooked up to the heating water.
Mhm.
And that is not legal. So we should be looking at separating those 2 systems. That's that's a very big expense that will come up for building maintenance. Other than that, I've got just a couple things from this year that were set. We bought a couple boxes of filters for the furnaces, so we're safe on those. We won't need any of those, barring general maintenance. I don't think anything big with the buildings.
I understand that the lighting may need to change. So there is in 2025 PSB lighting has to be removed. They're
Okay.
being prohibited from use.
Yeah.
From any building, and I believe that the fires for Station 1 may have some of those lighting.
I believe they do, yes.
Yeah, so we're trying to get an audit in there to see what that's gonna cost as well, so
Okay.
that we'll have to use the lighting as well.
Yeah, those are really, I think, the big ticket items for this year for building maintenance. Like I said, repairs were completed at Station 2. Which looked great. Other than that, vehicle maintenance, our prices are gonna go up on our yearly inspections because of how the inspections are being done now. So obviously the price goes up on those because they take longer. Price point compared to, I believe the new system was in place when we did these ones. I could be wrong.
I think the fire department got in just before we did drive on.
Okay, so next year the price will be considerably higher. I spoke with Chief in Mattawa. He was anywhere from 700 to 1,000 with GenCore services to do their safeties. Given that's a little bit of work for the $1,000, there's a little more work than the 600 with basically nothing. Our furnaces are in good shape. Those were just replaced. Those were just installed with the new propane systems, so nothing there. We've got a truck out for maintenance right now, the old Chevy, the bush truck. It's gone for maintenance. Fingers crossed it couldn't need anything more next year. Everything else looks to be in fairly decent condition. That doesn't mean that stuff can't go bad tomorrow with the sensor. Electronics are big, so. But everything conditions right now are fairly decent.
And you're looking for a trailer for the Gator?
We're looking
next
for a
year?
trailer for the Gator. Hopes was for this year, but we haven't made the budget this year, so.
Do you have a ballpark on that? Have you priced it out?
So I have priced it out and we're looking from about 5,500 for a 12-foot single axle. to about 8,000 for a 14-foot dual axle.
It's like a flatbed trailer.
Yeah, small size, like a landscaping trailer is what they're
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
So right now we can't run our gator on tracks in the wintertime because we don't have that trailer. If we put the tracks, we run across the township, we're gonna blow the tracks off of it. So we still have to, we can't utilize those tracks that we have that we purchased 2 years ago now, something like that. Because we don't have the trailer to be able to put it. So we're still on tires and.
Is there anything else in vehicles that we have to purchase, anything like that?
Big ticket items like a trailer, not so much, I think we're vehicle wise. Pretty stable, we need to start looking at replacement of a pumper. But you guys are already aware of that, that's, you know. The pumper 2 in station 2 is aging out. As well as the bush truck that's there, they're both aging. I know when pump test was done for pumper 2 this year. It was a struggle to get it to pass, but it did pass the pump test this year. Whether or not next year, we don't know. Yeah, that's what we're looking at for next year. Nikki kind of touched on courses. The EFR course is the big one. Our mainline medical responders, I want to have that course again because they're nearing the end of their expiration date for that. So I'd like to get that refreshed. And then for all the other responders for just basic calls, first aid, will more than suffice. The conference this year, I know it was dropped to 2 last year, or there was only 2 sent last year. I'd like to push it to 3 this year because there is some pretty heavy training courses coming. One of them being the trainer course for the 1041. Second one being a safety officers course that I'd like to push one of our guys through so that we've got that extra training. And then, of course, one down the main line conference path, which is they always have very good speakers in there that we pull things like cancer prevention, pushing stuff like that. Training, the OFM is there speaking to the new regulations coming. Like it's good to have somebody in there for that as well, so that we get that up-to-date news, we get everything as it's coming out instead of missing out on that and kind of just getting everything here and there from 15 emails in here. So that's the reason for that. Public education, we pushed up a little bit on the budget because our new fire prevention officer has big plans to roll out a better public education plan for this year and do more events, be more active in the community. So that's why we see that raise for that.
So as far as courses, like, I think everybody on our fire department should have basic first aid and CPR.
Yes.
My numbers are gonna be out of date for sure, but I used to have the instructor's course for St. John's. I did it when I ran the zoo because it was way cheaper for me to teach the course to all of my staff, especially over the summer, than sending them to get it. So back then, I think it was for 2 years, I think it was $800, and I took a 14-hour course, like 2 7-hour days. And then I had to shadow and teach a 14-hour course with somebody, but then I could teach my own courses. So St. John's will like add you as an instructor if you wanted, so that you can get paid to teach other courses, or you can just teach your own staff and your own teams. And instead of it being like $125, then I'm sure it's more per person. It was like just basically the cost of the book and the certificate. So it was like down to like 25-ish staff members. So I had like 18 staff members. So I took the instructor's course, lasted 2 years. I had to renew it every 2 years. It was less to renew, less time, less money. And I did that for 10 years or 12 years. Mine is now expired. But that might be another way to look at it, is to try and get somebody on your team to get the instructor's course. And I just looked very quickly on my phone, and I didn't want to spend too much time on it, and it's still offered in this area. And then we can teach that in-house to our team.
Yep, and I can speak to that, Steve. Myself and previous chief, we've actually had this discussion. And I had reached out, I still have the contact, I was in the process of going through for that instructor course. So that was one of the things we had looked at. We had also explored the option of getting certified to train the EFR course. That was another step. When I was looking through all of it, the person I was dealing with was in the midst of reorganizing, restructuring their program. So it kind of got pushed a little bit, and then, you know, we ran into some hurdles the last little bit of the year now, and it kind of got set aside. But that was something that I was exploring so that we could reduce that cost, so that we could offer that to the town hall staff, to public works staff, to summer students, the summer staff, you know, that way the fire department could recoup some of that cost, right? So that was an option that we were exploring. I do still have those contacts, they haven't gone anywhere, and that's still something we could explore.
And then for training, I know we have training that we need to accomplish for sure, and then
Yes.
there's training that we might want to accomplish. So I think there's still a few people that need training for fireworks.
Yes.
There's a couple that like just need to do shows and events. Has anything been scheduled or on the radar for that? Do we have a list of people? Do we know how many shows they need?
No, I will get that to you guys. I will find out how many we have. I believe from before we've lost one of our possibly two of our personnel now that had that certification, so we might be down on that side. That might be something we look into before the fireworks happen, to get a couple more certified so that we can keep you guys being trained. Again, that's one of them that more of a nice to have course. Also, reason for upping our training budget is we do have the mandatory training coming. The exams through the Ontario Fire College are $65 to be proctored. I believe it's 65 something, I believe, right around there, per person to write the exam. And we do have a lot of guys right now that need to write that firefighter 1 exam, and I'm trying to book that for 3 months out from now. And then I'd like to push those guys by the end of the year to have their firefighter 2 exam done. So that would put us well within our July of 2026 to be compliant.
So what was our budget last year
8,000.
and what is it projected for this year?
Well, we had talked about 10,000, but while we've been sitting here, there's another $2,000 training that council also wanted all of the municipal employees to have. So that would have to go up to at least $12,000.
But I think the township and council should be all in on training for the fire department.
Yes, they always have, yeah.
And like we even talked about before, hiring staff members and stuff like that, so there's money somewhere,
Mhm.
budget allowance somewhere that we gotta be all in on our training. Like the fireworks thing, it's a pin in the butt, but it's $200, and then it's, you know, I guess the guy's pretty in to go and do the 3 shows or whatever to get them certified. You know, so it's all these like little things that are gonna add up quickly. And then the things that we have to have, but we gotta look at that number for sure and give us a bit of a cushion. I don't want halfway through the year you'd be like, hey, we want our guys to do this, but we're out of money. That's
And we could very well fall to that, just because the medical training courses, the EFR courses, you know, we're looking about $500 a person for that course. It's a 40-hour course, so that eats up a lot real quick. But it's good for 3 years, right? So
now realistically, of your 18 guys, there's gonna be very few, I'm sure, that can dedicate 40 hours to a course. Especially like, is it all week, like a week long, or is it
so
work
it's
at your
2
own?
weekend courses.
Yeah.
2 weekends is how it was done the last time. So
Yeah.
Friday night, Saturday and Sunday morning, I believe. For 2 weekend, and then the next weekend, I believe, was just Friday night, Saturday. Something along that line, but it's still, it's intense, and that's why, 8 to 10 guys is what I want to send on it, because that's our main core in the township that respond to the medical calls. So that's why smaller on that end, and then everybody else just basic first aid.
And I think if council is seeing movement in action from our fire department and getting some of this stuff caught up and putting some hours in, I think we need to go all in on this budget for training. And if we don't use it, then reserve it, but I'd hate to 6 months from now be like, hey, there's a couple great opportunities, but we're in. Equipment aside, all the other stuff, like everything's important, but I think that's our biggest target point on that budget is maybe training.
When we review the rest of it, we'll be sure to be pinching the pennies elsewhere where we can so that we can increase that during the budget. Understanding that we are behind.
Yeah.
Especially in asset management.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll have a draft budget for the next meeting. The January
Before it
meeting.
goes to council, it comes out.
Right.
Okay, anything else from anybody? All right, any resolutions? None,
Don't have anything this time.
okay, no correspondence. No closed sessions. All right, so just the adjournment, move by and second by
Josh.
the emergency management meeting be closed at 6:32 p.m. All in favor? Carried.